Welcome to the Blueprint for Profit, the podcast for construction leaders who are shaping the future of the industry. I'm your host, Skylar Guth. And today I'm joined by Phil Taylor, owner of Philip Edward Contracting, a restoration company based in Northeast Atlanta. Phil's got a hell of a story. Started in framing, pivoted to roofing and restoration, built a business to just under $6 million, and went through a buyout. Now he's back at it, and his third year back, he's on track to surpass that previous mark. What makes Phil's perspective so valuable is that he's not just building a business, he's doing it the right way. He's the ethical middle ground in an industry where contractors either get pushed around by insurance companies or cut corners. Phil's carved out a different path, and today we're going to talk about how he's done it. Phil, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with your story. You built a restoration business to just under $6 million, went through a buyout. Now you're back at it. Walk us through that journey. What led to the buyout and what made you decide to come back and do it again?
2008, I used to have a crew of framers, or actually I had 6 crews of framers, and we went from 6 to 0 down as a result of the economy tanking. And so I had a friend that was doing roofing and knew nothing about roofing, but he knew how to get the deal. So we ended up going over and learning how to do insurance claims. And so we built that business up to just under 6 million in 2019. And I had the old partner divorce. The guy wanted out of the business, and he sent me some emails saying he wanted out. And so back and forth, we ended up determining that it was best that he buy me out. And so business is still operating today. But what that left me with was a non-compete for 2 years. And so I went from knowing exactly what I was going to do every day to, taking the money and run, so to speak, and had to sit on the sideline for a couple of years. So before that, I'd done some custom home building throughout my entire career and ended up getting back into custom home building, did some remodeling, dabbled a little bit into multifamily, capital improvements space. And I didn't really get traction in that. They just want you to do a whole lot of work for very little margin and want you to finance it. So it wasn't something that I saw was going to scale very easily. So when the non-compete was gone, I ended up jumping back into restoration, and I determined no more programs for me, but I'm going to build it the way I intended on doing it the first time.
Mm-hmm. That takes guts to walk away and then come back and rebuild. What did you learn from that first run that you're doing differently this time around?
So the first time we got into the industry, we started by way of roofing, and then it turned into some tree damage, to some water damage, to some fires and stuff like that. And so we got, I would say, complacent, lazy, whatever the word would be, where we decided we were going to go and let the third party administrator programs rule how we did business. And so you can pick a lane, and you can either be the contractor that does all the programs and plays all of their little games and everything and gets, this carrot of volume put in front of you, or you can go figure out how to market it and make the relationships and do the, bootstrap work that it takes in order to survive without it. And so we chose no more programs. And I think the more people that choose that path, sooner than later are going to see a better industry, because the programs are just killing the industry.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned in our pre-call that you're on track to surpass that 6 million mark in your third year back. What's driving that growth? What are you doing differently that's allowing you to scale faster this time?
So I'm working with a company, a consulting company, and I've got 3 C-suite. I've got a finance and operations and a marketing advisor. I've got a 10-year roadmap as to where we're going with the business. We got mentorship programs with leadership and things like that. So we're able to build all those around us and start making them succeed. And I mean, I've got people that are doing better than I've ever worked with within the organization now. We're attracting top talent, and some of the competitors are starting to fall apart due to all the private equity money jumping in the restoration space and just blowing these companies apart that have been successful for years. So we're getting some good help too from people that are just, people, the ownership sells the company. Next thing you know, there's nobody running it that built it to begin with, and they just strip out management, and it leaves us for some pretty good players.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about something you're really passionate about, controlling your own destiny. You've made it clear that you're not the contractor who gets pushed around by insurance companies, but you're also not cutting corners. You're the ethical middle ground. And you've done that by controlling your marketing rather than relying on preferred vendor programs. Why is that so important to you?
Well, because I've been in a position where I expanded my business, hired a bunch of people, added second location, bought a bunch of fleet, you name it. You're putting uh, all this overhead and risk into your business, and in hopes that somebody else will give you the green light to continue to grow. And if you've got, like, this year, I was told that TPAs are down 40%. The third party administrators, the preferred vendor programs are down 40%. That can put you completely out of business. And so we didn't have the best of years, but we had a 10% year over year growth. And we're looking to surpass that, probably another 30% growth for 26, based on our KPIs of where we think we can get. And we're very much happy that we chose the path we did. It's not less
Mhm.
expensive, it's not easier, but we can do it with a smaller team of people. We don't have to have all these people that seriously just build administrative costs in our business. We don't have to, bow over to them and their estimating guidelines and things like that. So we're not trying to rip somebody off, but we're not trying to be ripped off either. And we don't need a middle person as, speed bump acting as if they're doing everyone a favor by giving us this volume that's apparently not going to the other contractors this year. I got a lot of friends in the industry that do it. And a lot of that's every single peer group meeting we're at. They're talking about getting out of it and which one should we do. And they try to validate it, make excuses as to why it's, something they should continue, where I'm not in alignment with that. I've made that mistake before.
So, what happens when those preferred vendor programs turn off the tap? You've seen this happen to other contractors. What's the impact?
So the impact is, you build out additional people so that they can sit there and, hit the buttons, as we call it, so that one little, they call it a palm score performance objective metric, or I don't know exactly what the terminology stands for, but so you build all these people into your business. And so, like, there was one that Allstate used to have called Alacrity. They would actually, when you get 40 names on a list, they shut you off. And it could be one adjuster who called in and they don't like you for, one person on site could have, left a nail that caused a hole in a tire. It could have been completely somebody else. And next thing you know, that adjuster gets a flat tire, misses his son's basketball game, and they shut you off for that. That's exaggeration. It never happened to us, but it just really puts you at risk to not be able to determine what fuel is in your tank, because if those leads stop until you can get something, or let's say you change insurance companies, and all of a sudden your general liability certificate expires in October versus September, and somebody gets their wires crossed somewhere else. If you don't comply, it could be out of your control, and next thing you know, you're shut down. So there's a lot of what ifs that could happen, and it could be that somebody's a friend, and so that friend of a competitor says, "Hey, well, let's kick them off and put me on." And that's the way the world works. I understand, but it's not something you want to put yourself in as a contractor.
Right. So, how are you approaching marketing differently to avoid that dependency? And what does that look like in practice?
So I've had to learn how. I've been doing this since 1998 on my own. I've never really had a real job, and it's been a grind. But I've went from driving through the subdivisions, learning how to stop and talk to people, and figure out where the next job was going to come from, and this person knew that person, and network like through that, and be willing to, when we ran out of work, we'd go work for others. Well, now I work a lot with tree services. When trees fall on houses, there's no money in tarping them, but we do a lot of reconstruction. We do a lot of drying, and so we'll work with tree services. We'll work with insurance, or like insurance agents. We'll work with property managers. We do work for University of Georgia. We do work for University of North Georgia. Um, Plumbers, fire department's kind of hard to do because there's the whole code of ethics that I don't know where that rule book lies, but there's other companies that pay those folks to be on their, team, so to speak, the retired people. But so you got to hustle. We do SEO, we do med ads, we got local service ads. And so we're actually just opened up a roofing company, standalone roofing company, not doing claims, going to be doing some retail stuff through a, we're a dealer for another expert marketer. So it's a matter of learning it. I've been doing this a long, long time, and I don't consider myself even an amateur at marketing, but I've got to learn it. And so Whereas the industry is
Mhm.
getting bigger deductibles and the claim volume slows down, the things are still going to break and people still want to upgrade their homes and do things to them. And so we're not just a one little drying job, company. We're full service and we'll build your house. We build custom
Mhm.
homes now. So that's something we kind of never got rid of after the non compete.
Yeah. You also mentioned that claim volume is down 40% nationwide. How do you see the restoration industry changing over the next few years, especially with that kind of pressure?
So I have no idea what's going to happen to the industry. Reasons I say that is because it has been the old unprecedented word. I've never seen so many good companies get acquired by private equity people who are stripping layers and layers of good people out of the company to reduce overhead. And they're taking the very people that ran the business and they're literally running it into the ground. So do they fold? Do they go back for raising additional capital? I don't know what's going to happen with them. So, but I do know that when those good people that have been in good stable positions or start looking around, and there's a company that's not dependent on TPAs, that's not private equity owned, we want to be there for that, and we want those folks to come over and be with us. And so we've got some really good heavy hitters here recently. I went from a couple years ago starting back over with people from outside the industry. I guess it's the ego that says, "Hey, we can train these people. We can tell them how to do it our way from the scratch." And that's not easy. it's kind of a it's a complex world, and it's hard to duplicate every single thing. Like a assembly line when people's emotions and properties are all different, and different damages and things. So I'm not real sure where the industry's headed, but we're going to be one of the leaders in it.
Yeah. Let's shift gears and talk about something that I think a lot of business owners overlook is the peer-to-peer benchmarking and financial literacy. You mentioned working with a group called Business Networks out of Eugene, and that meeting with them might have saved your business on the biggest job. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to always kind of keep our ear to the ground and find the right, people to listen to. And we found ourselves at a national sales conference for a peer group, kind of so to speak. It was a best practices group out of Lenexa, Kansas. They used to teach people how to do water damage restoration, build the business, market it, operations, everything. And so we met a gentleman there. We landed a contract that day for a 24 unit apartment fire in Savannah, Georgia. And that we met this gentleman, and he was starting to tell us about his company. Well, he's been doing this now 54 years, and Business Networks is the name of it. His name's Wes Cunningham. He is just a great human. And he actually told us, he said, "You guys need to come to dinner with me and this other guy." Uh, sure enough, he took us to dinner. We went to with a couple other guys from the software company, and the guy looked at us. He says, "How are you going to do this job?" And we had no business doing it. I mean, just no business at all. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We could have very well put ourselves out of business right then and there had we not, listened and got the right advice. But thankfully, that man put us in touch with this gentleman out of Kansas, and I'm still friends with him today. But we then signed up for the peer group, and we went to this thing called flight school, and he showed us how to break down the financial statements and how to understand how to measure your business, how to utilize the software that we'd already purchased but was too hard headed to learn, and
Mhm.
just didn't know what we were doing. And so
Mhm.
by doing that, you have to learn to report your metrics and your data. And I mean, now it's a lot different than it was 10, 15 years or 10, 12 years ago. And so it's a lot easier now for to get information out of these things. But I mean, we're still learning, and it's a blast. So we go
Yeah.
twice a year. They came here in April and critique our company, and we actually we we went to Indiana here a couple months ago. I think next one we're going up to Boston or something like that. And so we share financials when we're in non-competing environments, and everybody reports their data as close to the same way as you can possibly get it from all these different softwares. And then you have those peers to kind of bounce ideas off of. And I mean, it's any kind of operations, marketing, anything like that you've got questions, they can typically somebody's got the answer in that group. So it's invaluable, and you help them by interviewing all their employees and the employees tell you what's wrong or what's the opportunity to fix the business, and you then make these suggestions on how to make that those improvements, provided you're doing it. You can't offer, hey, let's start producing oxygen if you don't already produce oxygen. You've got to be doing it. So it's pretty
Hmm.
amazing, and it's just a great group of people, and they're good companies. Everybody's wanting to do better. A lot of friendships there, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you think would have happened if you hadn't met them when you did? How bad could it have gotten?
Well, so we were getting $250,000 a week draws on this job. So let's say one of those doesn't hit. If we didn't have the contract in place that we never would have used, if we didn't have the agreed to amount to start with, if we didn't have a lot of things that this gentleman in Tech or in Lenexa, Kansas told us about, we would not have been able to structure the deal right, to understand the setup, to be willing to say, hey, you're going to have to pay us $250,000 in advance to get us started on this thing. And thankfully, we had a structure set up so that we had on site people, and we were able to communicate with them weekly and give them progress updates. It was just a godsend. And I mean, I never knew there was such thing as a construction attorney because I'd never been in a lawsuit, and thankfully, haven't been since. And so we're, just fortunate that I've met the right people. But I mean, it could have been catastrophic. And not knowing the financials, I remember sitting in one of those peer groups, and a gentleman very successful was next to us, and he says, "You guys are running your business off cash flow, not off profitability." And at the time, we didn't know what that was. It wasn't clear, and so we would look at the bank and say, hey, we got a lot of money in the bank, but it didn't matter because we weren't reporting our overbillings and underbillings, which is a accounting principle that every restorer has got to know, or they're reporting information inaccurately. It's like putting mud all over your windshield and driving. You don't know if you're going forwards or backwards at that point. It's scary.
Right. And for contractors listening who have never been a part of a peer group or don't have a strong handle on their financials, what would you say to them about the value of financial literacy and benchmarking?
I would say that there's no way you're going to make it without it. 97% of businesses fail, and none of us are that smart, or we wouldn't be doing contracting. I mean, this is what my family did, and this has been my passion forever. But it's there's so much more to it. We're um, a lot of times we're not the softest of people, meaning a little rough around the edges and things like that, and so we don't want to listen to somebody else. And now all of a sudden, there's banks that's got to, have see good financials. And if you're going to be one of those people that goes on those programs, you better get your stuff in order for them because they can see right through your financials. If you don't know it, it's obvious. You walk around like it's tattooed on your head. So if you don't get that information, I mean, now there's a lot more YouTube and things like that, but you don't know if you're getting good or bad information. So we want to follow the leaders and the people that are in the group. You don't go to the bum asking for financial advice. You go to the billionaire. So we go to those people who are doing success that are above us. And then somehow or another, we offer something. We're in the middle. And then the new people down there, they're getting started or whatever. And so everybody can learn from someone else. And it's
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah. And you're working with Cardone Ventures and Brandon Dawson to blueprint your business. That's a serious investment in growth. What
It
what made
is.
you decide to bring in that level of strategic support, and what's been the biggest impact so far?
Well, there's a gentleman named Pedro Perez out of Carson, California. I went to his place one time and saw his operation. It's like nothing I've seen in the restoration world. Very, very, very capable guy. And I saw on Facebook, we were Facebook friends, and it said that, he liked Grant Cardone somehow. And I saw another buddy of mine who went to Georgia Tech and done a lot successfully. And was like, who the heck's this Grant Cardone guy? And, he's a lot. But then when I went to his first boot camp, I was thinking this is back like 21 or something like that. And I was thinking I was going to be in a room of 20 people at this boot camp. And I walked in, there's 1,200 people in this room. And this is back when everybody was still had the cooties and couldn't get near one another and stuff like that. And he's like, you can take your mask off now. We're into that now. And so he's just my kind of people. Well, then Brandon Dawson started talking. And Brandon was just, God, is he amazing? He's just so intelligent. And his wife's amazing. Grant's wife's amazing. And so the more I got close to them, the more I wanted to get closer. And so I went through a lot of their different smaller classes, went into the 10X 360, went into the BMLP, which is the leadership program. Did the platform where you go and they for 6 months transfer data back and forth, and kind of benchmark against peers, and they'll go out and do industry analysis and things like that and help grow. Identify where to go with your business, and then they those are the C-suite people that help us on a, I wouldn't say daily, but we work with them 3 times a week. They've got OKRs, objective key results for our 26, and they help us. I mean, it's just like a godsend, and so they're just an amazing company.
Yeah. So what are your OKRs for 2026 looking like? Your objectives and key results, and where do you
Yeah.
want to take the business?
So we're looking to optimize everything that we've got. So as I mentioned last April, we had a peer group come in town, and everything seemed like it was great. And so we call it the business network's curse. As soon as somebody, the crowd leaves, uh, it's like you've got to get all these things. They give you a bunch of suggestions and stuff. And so we started moving forward, and immediately we had an estimator that was not a culture fit for anybody in the business. And we had another person, we just think a couple of them just weren't going to make it. And so we cut down, and then we went for the first 4 months was just very, very slow in volume. We were chewing into last year backlog. Well, then this year, like May 1st, it's just like they opened the floodgates. Well, we had cut some people, had one leave because he said he didn't want to build anymore, just had built one home with us and said, "Hey, this is not for me. It's too stressful." And I don't blame him. It's not for everybody. But we basically had rebuilt ever since then. We went for what is that, 8 months with no estimator. We finally got one at the end of the year. That's one of these, heavy hitters that we got through a friend of a friend. And so fortunately, we've now got all of our processes laid out. I mean, this is, and we've got a new mitigation manager. We had to cut one of those, unfortunately. And there's a lot of that in the industry, in the restoration world. It's not the best place to see people with long tenures, but we've got some long tenures in there with relationships. But where I see us going is optimizing everything we've done. We've been using HubSpot, which is this massive software that doesn't talk well with the software that doesn't have an open API. Well, we just got the API so that we can work through all those things. We've set up our customer journey so that each profit center can have a touch point. We're going to learn how to be better communicators, better sales on a daily basis. We're doing these things. We're going to be utilizing the School of Entrepreneurship, which is Larry Janeski, and teaching everybody how to do our sales processes. So we've got our players in place, back building our foundation. Now we're going to do 30 to 40% more revenue with the same people that we had. Now that the competence is there, we've worked out our systems and who's to do what. So we skin our knees, but we grew 10%, and it was not a pretty year, but it's gone. So we're in a new one.
Nice. Yeah. All right, Phil. If a contractor listening today could only take one action this week to improve their business, what would you tell them to focus on?
I would say the financial literacy piece. Without that, it's just a matter of time, because they say whatever you think is going to take you out, it's not going to be what it takes you out. It's always the unexpected surprise. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to sell my previous company. Never in a million years would I have dreamed that I would have done that. But I went to every person more successful than me, and 100% of them gave me the same answer, that I should sell, not buy that broken business. And so that's what I did. So learning those data points, how to extract information uh, from your softwares and everything, that's the only way you have a company. So we can all go out there and rake leaves and charge somebody money, but until you can reproduce it with people, process, and profit, we don't have a company. And if
Yeah,
you don't know what you got, then you can't sell it.
right. And what's the one thing they should stop doing immediately?
Oh God, this is almost hypocritical because you got to stop being the bottleneck. I've been that my whole career, and I'm learning how to release those things to others, and build others, and duplicate yourself, and document standard operating procedures, and trust others to do things. It's still it's a struggle for me to trust people until they've earned it, and we hold on to things too much. I mean, you could probably send anybody in that could operationally run the business better than me, because they don't know how to do it. And so the technical expert's the biggest weakness in the business, because you can't let go. and that's what we got to stop doing. But I'm not judging. I'm learning.
Phil, this has been an incredible conversation. Your insights on controlling your destiny, avoiding dependency on third parties, and the importance of peer groups and financial literacy are fantastic. For anyone who wants to learn more about your work or connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
It rhymes. It's PECTG.com. That's stands for Philip Edward Contracting. And it's not one that we selected due to its rhyme, but it's almost like a rap song, I guess. But it's PECTG.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the Blueprint for Profit, Phil. This has been a great conversation.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Thank you.
All right. And until next time, keep building the future.